Hello girls and boys, how's it going? So what if I told you that a political move in Washington is quietly opening up $1 million opportunities? Opportunities not for politicians, not for corporates, not for businessmen, but for cloud and DevOps engineers like you and me. So what happened is in April 2025, Donald Trump's new reciprocal tariff policy literally dropped like a bomb on global trade.
Reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. Reciprocal, that means they do it to us and we do it to them.
And as the entire world, as the entire supply chain started to panic, a quiet revolution began in data center, in cloud hub, and in the DevOps circles. This is not about politics. This is about how geopolitical chaos is handing you, specifically the Indian techie, the chance of once in a decade. And because you are based in the Indian subcontinent, you get a very, very unique advantage. I'll explain all of that with 3 fundamental questions. Number 1, what is Trump's reciprocal policy? Number 2, what is the global impact of this policy? And number 3, how is it opening doors and opportunities for cloud, DevOps, platform engineers overall? And then most importantly, what can you do to take advantage of this changing global landscape? If you're new here, my name is Savinder Puri and I've been in the build, release, DevOps, software engineering space for over 2 decades. You can go onto LinkedIn to check my profile to know more about my credentials. Let's get started. So let's talk about the first one. What is Trump's reciprocal tariff? Now, when Trump was contesting for the elections, one of his biggest promises was reciprocal tariffs. It simply means if a country imposes tariff on the United States will impose back tariff on that country. Which means if China is putting in a tariff of 30%, US will put tariff back onto import of Chinese goods into US for the same or more amount. And in this year, after Trump got elected and became the president, on April 2nd, a day he called Liberation Day, this became a reality. Reciprocal tariffs ranging from 20-30% to over 140% were slapped on countries across the board, and it impacted pretty much everything.
In this global economy, how can countries protect their own interests while keeping fair trade going? What new trade systems are needed to keep things stable? The 2025 tariffs have changed everything.
It was impacted on semiconductors. Think smartphones. It impacted EV batteries. Think electric cars. It impacted consumer electronics. Think TVs, routers, gaming stations, all of that. It impacted steel, aluminium, industrial machinery. So think the impact on house building, infrastructure building, on agriculture, farming equipment. It impacted pharmaceuticals. So impact on the cost of drugs produced. Even basic import items like toys, kitchen utensils saw hikes of 30 to 40, 50%. That's basically every item needed for modern life, especially the tech and the energy. Now, what was Trump's pitch in doing all of this? It was to bring manufacturing back to America, to rebuild American factories, to bring back jobs, and slowly over a period of time, not being reliant on other countries.
As the president digs in on tariffs,
Jobs and factories will come roaring back into our country.
raising the question, is a manufacturing renaissance in the United States possible? And would it provide jobs that people here want?
But here's what actually happened. The manufacturing cost in the US became 3 to 5 times higher than in Asia. Also, there is a lot of labor shortage. There is very high environment regulations and high capex made this manufacturing shift into the US almost impossible to do on such a short notice. And companies were caught overnight in a crunch, either to raise the price of products or to cut margins. Now, I'll give you a specific policy which is called de minimis exception, which basically means that any product of less than $800 when imported into the US did not have any import duty, which is practically about thousands and thousands of products listed on Amazon. Overnight, when these tariffs came, the de minimis exceptions got wiped out. And suddenly products which were being manufactured in Asia and China, which were selling for $3, $5, went 3 times over and started being sold at $15, $20. Nobody would expect that. The entire business model came crashing down almost overnight. So number 2, what was the global impact on this? So the Trump's tariff was made to punish countries like China, which were the heaviest importers of Chinese goods into the US. That was the idea. But here's the dirty secret. It punished the American companies first. Why? Because almost every US company today depends on China and the global supply chain originating or using up China and Asia. Now let's look at how these tariffs sent shockwaves in the real business. Walmart, the retail backbone of America. Walmart imposed about 60 to 70% of its goods from Chinese and Southeast Asian suppliers. After the tariff,
Walmart is closing stores, and this is something you never thought you'd hear in America. Not 1, not 2, but entire locations shutting down in towns across the country. Lincolnwood, Plainfield, Homewood, San Diego, gone. This isn't just about retail, it's about survival. And if Walmart is in trouble, what does that say about the rest of the economy?
the cost of basic consumer items like toasters, microwaves, bed sheets, everything fundamental skyrocketed. And rather than pass all of this to the consumer, Walmart began quietly shifting its sourcing to Vietnam, to India, to Mexico, countries where the tariffs were lower. Let's talk about Nike.
Nike, Adidas, and Columbia Sportswear have signed this open letter to President Trump. In it, they asked shoes be removed from the list of proposed items that would be hit by the tariffs.
American footwear under siege. Trump's tariffs threaten to cripple the industry. In a powerful plea to the White House, Nike, Adidas, and other footwear giants are warning that President Trump's sweeping tariff strategy could devastate their industry.
Nike still relies very heavily on China and Indonesia for its athletic gears. And when tariffs slapped about 35 to 50, 60% on textiles and on finished goods, Nike's margins started bleeding.
If the current situation continues, American footwear workers and consumers will suffer, the letter stated. This is an emergency that requires immediate action and attention. The group argues that President Trump's import taxes represent an existential threat to the industry. One that could shutter stores, disrupt supply chains, and eliminate jobs at every level of the production and retail process.
And in Q2 2025, they announced upwards of a $1.2 billion investment to shift part of their manufacturing to India and Ethiopia. You've probably all heard about Apple and how they were already setting up manufacturing facilities in India via Foxconn. And one of the biggest ones, Amazon. Not AWS, the cloud empire, but the reseller Amazon. While they haven't officially confirmed it, but let's look at some of their actions. They have now opened 2 hyperscale AWS data centers in Saudi Arabia. They've launched a $5 billion investment fund for cloud infrastructure in UAE and Qatar. They've started shifting a bunch load of engineers to work out of Dubai, UAE to start staying agile. Which brings us to the third point. How is this opening up opportunities for cloud and DevOps engineers? So while the West was busy fighting trade wars, the Middle East is quietly building empires. Not oil empires, but digital empires this time. And the Gulf nations, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, all of these have seen the writing on the wall. They know that the oil edge and the age of oil is slowly ending. And now they are racing to become the new Silicon Valley of the East. And Trump's tariff chaos, that gave them the perfect opening. So what are they building? Massive hyperscale data centers. Smart cities like Neom, which is a $500 billion giga project in the Saudi desert. It's everything cloud connected, AI run, sustainability focused smart city. Then they're building local cloud mandates because the UAE and Saudi Arabia have strict data residency laws, which means they cannot host critical data centers outside of the country. And here's the twist that no one's talking about. For most of the Gulf countries do not have enough local talent. What are they hungry for? What talent are they looking for? Engineers who can understand Terraform, Kubernetes, multi-region deployments, DevOps leaders who can design pipelines for mission-critical infrastructures, architects who can balance cost, compliance, and speed in global environments. So let's talk about the next one. Why is this a gold mine for cloud and DevOps engineers? So all of this talk of tariff, trade war, Middle East, cloud zone, what does it actually mean for you and your career? Let me spell it out for you. If you're in the cloud, DevOps, SRE, you've probably hit the biggest jackpot of your career. Let's talk about 5 real-world opportunities. Number 1, greenfield cloud builds. So traditionally, if you've gone into an enterprise doing cloud or DevOps, meaning you've been managing age-old data centers, age-old Jenkins script, legacy pipelines, you've been doing all of that. Now, in the Middle East, companies are building from scratch. They are not migrating, they are designing. What does it mean? You require skills like modern infrastructure as code, things like Terraform, Pulumi, all of that. You need serverless first architectures and patterns, and you need a full stack automation from day one because this is being built from scratch. So if you know how to design CI/CD pipelines, manage the infrastructure with code, and deploy secure workloads, you're not just essential there, you're pure gold. Second opportunity, data residency, which means local pipelines. Because with the UAE and the Dubai and Saudi enforcing local data laws, companies just can't deploy in US or Ireland zones. So they need engineers who can deploy region-specific workloads, who can configure latency-optimized, let's say CDNs, and who can automate failovers between local data centers. And this is where Indian engineers who understand multi-cloud architectures become priceless. Number 4 is your unfair advantage. Now, Middle East projects increasingly prefer Indian talent. Why? It gives them cultural proximity, time zone convenience. And being in India suddenly becomes your unfair advantage, whether you want to relocate or even work remotely for companies in the Middle East. And the 5th one, visa-free zones and rapid hiring. Unlike the US and the Europe, most Gulf countries offer very quick visa approvals, they have remote-friendly work setups, and they have zero tax zones. In fact, Dubai and Riyadh are slowly turning into mini Silicon Valleys with zero red tape and very fast onboarding. Which gets me to the next point. So what should you do now, and how as a cloud, DevOps, SRE engineer can you take advantage of this shift? Number 1, stop chasing the US-Europe dream. The game has changed. The geopolitical situation in these countries is very, very fast evolving. They are not the golden goose they were at one point of time. You can do your own research on this. Instead, look at other markets, look at Eastern Europe, look at Middle Asia. These are high growth places. Second one, master infrastructure as code, CI/CD, master your technical skills. These are the first to be outsourced and contracted in the new build ecosystem. So double down on your technology skills, because the more technically competent you are, the more you can showcase your skills, the more easier it is to spot you. Number 3, study data residency laws. Now, countries want data between their borders. Learn how to deploy cloud per region. Go specific on AWS, Azure, GCP. All of these are going to follow the similar patterns. Become very, very good with data redundancy specific to a cloud. And then what I always say, learn in public. Because imagine when a big organization in Riyadh, in Dubai, in the Middle East is looking for top engineers in India, you should bubble up to the top. That is how they will hire you. That is how you can get great opportunities. And finally, watch the movement of capital, of money. Follow where Microsoft, AWS, Google are opening their data centers. That is where the new demands will explode. So be smart and follow the right kind of news, which could become your turning point in your career. So here's the 10-second summary of geopolitics in the mid of 2025. America's fighting wars. China's losing trust. But the Gulf is building cloud empires. And they need engineers like you and me to run them. So if you're sitting in Pune, Hyderabad, Nasik and wondering what's my next big career move, this, girls and boys, could be it. Study up, prepare up, learn up in public, and who knows, your career just might take a moonshot. See you in the next one.